They abandoned this obsolete ship in a scrapyard. A human mechanic changed its fate. The scrapyard stretched for miles, a graveyard of forgotten technology under the twin suns. Rusted starships leaned against one another like tired old soldiers, their hulls scarred from battles long past. Most ships here had been abandoned, left to decay after the galaxy declared them obsolete. Yet among all these relics, one ship stood out, not for its size nor its shine, but for its stubborn silence. The Obsidian Sparrow had been a legend once, a warship capable of incredible feats. Now it lay in quiet ruin, its panels dented, its engines cold, and its AI system dormant, or so everyone thought. Ryland stepped carefully among the wrecks, the soles of his boots crunching on the metal debris. His dark eyes scanned the scrapyard with a mix of curiosity and excitement. To most people, this place was worthless. To Ryland, it was a treasure trove. Humans had always been underestimated by the galactic authorities. Our strength wasn't in the largest fleet or the strongest shields. It was in ingenuity, in seeing opportunities where others saw trash, and Ryland was one of the best at it. He paused in front of the Obsidian Sparrow. The ship's hull was scratched, burned, and covered in layers of dust, but Ryland could feel a faint vibration in the metal beneath his fingers. A heartbeat. Or at least, something like it. Most aliens would have ignored this small hint, but humans were patient. Humans were persistent. "This one's not done yet," Ryland murmured, brushing his hand across the cool metal. "You're just waiting for someone who knows how to wake you." He had been coming to the scrapyard for weeks, quietly surveying abandoned ships, looking for anomalies. The Obsidian Sparrow had called to him differently. There was a hum in its core, faint but steady. Ryland could feel it in his bones, a rhythm that said, "I'm alive, just barely." Ryland spent the next hours clearing debris from around the ship. His small toolkit rattled as he worked, picking through broken conduits, rewiring exposed circuits, and replacing rusted bolts. The alien warnings painted on the hull, symbols he couldn't read, only intrigued him more. They spoke of a dormant defense system that could activate without warning. Most humans would have been scared. Ryland smiled. The scrapyard had quieted after the last clash, but Ryland knew calm wouldn't last. News traveled faster than he expected, even in the shadows of abandoned ships and rusting metal. Scanners in the Obsidian Sparrow detected multiple signals approaching. Fleets from alien corporations, enforcement drones from the Galactic Authority, and independent scavenger groups eager to claim the ship. None expected the ship to fight back, but Ryland and Calith were ready. Ryland tapped the console, feeling the pulse of energy from the ship. The Obsidian Sparrow was no longer just a relic. It was alive, responding to his touch, learning from his movements. Calith's AI now communicated in clearer pulses and simple phrases, like fragments of a thought-forming words. Human, creative, dangerous. Ryland smiled. Dangerous, yes, but for those who underestimated humans, that was exactly the point. He initiated a full systems check. The engines were operational, the shields strong, and the navigation systems could handle complex maneuvers. The ship could not yet leave the sector safely, but it could defend itself and move strategically. That was enough for now. As the alien fleets closed in, Ryland activated the scrapyard's hidden obstacles. He had rigged parts of the surrounding wreckage to collapse, creating narrow pathways and deadly traps. The aliens would expect him to flee, but humans thrived on improvisation. The first wave of attackers appeared over the horizon. Sleek, predatory ships glinted in the light of the twin suns, their weapons bristling. They expected a weakened target, a defenseless relic. They did not expect a human mind to guide it. Ryland gripped the controls. "Calith, follow my lead. Let's make them regret underestimating us." The ship responded, systems humming with energy. Ryland piloted through narrow gaps between hulks of other starships, twisting and turning in ways no autopilot could predict. Energy pulses from the engines sent debris flying into the path of the alien fleet, disrupting sensors and forcing them to dodge. one alien cruiser fired a precision beam, slicing through the air where Rylan had been seconds earlier. Sparks erupted from the hull, alarms blaring. But he smiled. Humans had a knack for finding solutions under pressure. He rerouted power to the shields, stabilized the section hit, and used the engine pulse to launch a small shock wave. The cruiser faltered, its systems disrupted by the improvised attack. Calif's AI adapted in real time, guiding Ryland's adjustments, anticipating enemy moves, and countering attacks before they happened. The synergy between human ingenuity and alien technology became clear. The Obsidian Sparrow was no longer just a ship. It was a living, learning entity. The second wave of enemies arrived, larger and faster, aiming to surround the scrapyard. Ryland paused only a moment to consider his options. Retreat was impossible. The narrow corridors of wreckage limited escape routes, but it was the perfect environment for human improvisation. "Time for some creative thinking," Ryland muttered. He activated hidden systems he had been testing. Magnetic pulse emitters, destabilizers, and improvised decoys made from old hull fragments. The first decoy launched, spinning unpredictably, mimicking the ship's signature. Alien sensors locked onto it, and several ships fired, only to hit nothing but spinning metal. "Good," Ryland said, exhilarated. "They're learning the hard way." Kalis responded with a flicker of blue light. "Human. Clever. Adaptable." The remaining enemy ships advanced cautiously, aware something was wrong, but unable to predict the ship's next move. Ryland steered the Obsidian Sparrow through a collapsing corridor of wrecks, forcing enemies to navigate dangerous debris. Energy shields deflected stray shots, and the engine's energy pulses caused temporary system glitches in pursuing ships. One alien captain, frustrated and arrogant, attempted a direct attack. A massive beam cut toward the Obsidian Sparrow, intended to cripple it instantly. Ryland held his breath and acted on instinct. He fired a short, high-intensity energy pulse from the engines, dispersing the beam and simultaneously destabilizing a nearby wreck. Metal crashed between the enemy and the ship, shielding it from further fire. "Improvisation beats protocol every time," Ryland muttered. Calith hummed in agreement. The AI had learned the value of unpredictability, human intuition, and the courage to act when rules said to hesitate. It was an education in real time, one that no galactic authority or alien corporation had anticipated. Bad hours of maneuvering passed, the scrap-filled battlefield echoing with explosions and flashing lights. Yet, despite the overwhelming odds, Rylan and the Obsidian Sparrow prevailed. Enemy ships, battered and confused, began retreating, realizing they had underestimated a human. The ship glided through the wreckage, its systems humming in triumph. Relaine exhaled, leaning back in the pilot's chair. Sweat dripped down his face, but his eyes gleamed. Humans were not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most technologically advanced, but they were adaptable, daring, and clever. And when combined with Calith, the Obsidian Sparrow was unstoppable. "Calith," Ryland said softly, "we've proven something today." Sensors picked up distant signals, enemy fleets regrouping, curious alien corporations, and enforcement drones trying to locate the ship. But none could predict the moves of a human mechanic and a half-awake AI learning from its first real partnership. Ryland piloted with confidence, weaving through the scrapyard's obstacles with ease. Kalis' lights pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat, guiding systems, calculating trajectories, and anticipating threats. Together, they navigated the dangerous maze, emerging from the scrapyard like a predator breaking free from a cage. Once clear of the scrapyard, Ryland initiated a jump to a nearby sector, one full of uncharted territories, hidden routes, and opportunities for human ingenuity to shine. The ship surged forward, engines glowing bright blue, leaving the past behind. For the first time in decades, the Obsidian Sparrow was free, alive, and in the hands of someone who understood its potential. Calith, now more coherent than ever, pulsed with recognition. Human, unique, worthy, Ryland smiled, leaning back in the pilot's chair. He had not only revived a ship but had shown the galaxy the power of human ingenuity, courage, and adaptability. The adventure was far from over, but the first real step had been taken. Humans were underestimated everywhere, yet here they were, rewriting the rules with nothing but creativity, courage, and persistence. And somewhere deep in the obsidian sparrow, Calith waited, ready to learn, adapt, and fight alongside the one human who had refused to give up. The galaxy awaited, and humans were ready. The obsidian sparrow glided silently through the uncharted sector, its engines humming with a steady, confident rhythm. The ship's systems were fully operational now, and Calith's AI had grown stronger, more coherent, capable of anticipating Ryland's intentions before he even voiced them. Yet the galaxy was vast, and threats waited in every shadow. Ryland studied the scanners. Dozens of signals flickered in the distance. Alien patrols, corporate fleets, and enforcement drones, all curious about the sudden disappearance of the scrapyard's abandoned ship. None had predicted that a single human could revive it. "We've got company," Ryland said quietly, a spark of determination in his eyes. "Time to remind them what humans can do." Calith's response was a simple pulse of light. "Ready, human, lead." Ryland smiled. Together, they were unstoppable. The first group of pursuers emerged, sleek patrol ships with weapons capable of destroying entire stations. They assumed superiority, expecting the obsidian sparrow to flee, to crumble under pressure. But Ryland had learned the value of improvisation. He manipulated the ship's trajectory, using nearby asteroid fields as cover. The AI calculated angles and energy flows in real time, allowing the ship to dodge laser fire and launch countermeasures. The first engagement was chaotic. Ryland piloted the ship through a narrow canyon of asteroids, weaving with precision and daring. He activated the ship's engines to emit sudden bursts of energy, pushing debris into the path of the pursuers. Lasers struck empty space. Missiles detonated harmlessly against floating metal. The patrol ships were forced to retreat, frustrated and surprised. "Not bad for a human," Calith's voice said, distorted but clear now. "They did not expect such strategy." Ryland grinned. "That's the advantage. Humans don't follow rules, they make them." But the first wave was only a warm-up. The real challenge came hours later, as a massive enforcement fleet arrived. Commanded by Admiral Varric, a calculating alien officer known for his ruthlessness, the fleet intended to capture the obsidian sparrow intact. It wasn't enough to destroy the ship. They wanted to study it, to understand how a human had managed the impossible. Ryland studied the fleet carefully. Their ships were advanced, coordinated, and heavily armed. A direct fight would be suicide. But humans excelled where others relied solely on power. "Calith, we're going to do this differently," Ryland said, plotting a course that took them deep into an uncharted nebula. "They're expecting us to fight straight. We're going to fight smart." The AI responded with a sequence of lights. Adaptive, human, innovative. Entering the nebula, the obsidian sparrow became almost invisible. Thick clouds of ionized gas interfered with sensors, shields, and targeting systems. The enforcement fleet hesitated, unable to predict the ship's movements. Ryland piloted with instinct, weaving unpredictably through the nebulous tunnels, creating confusion and fear among the fleet. He activated one of his cleverest inventions yet, small drones disguised as energy pulses, each one triggering false alerts across the fleet's sensors. They fired at nothing, wasted energy, and revealed their positions to each other. Ryland watched with satisfaction as the human's improvisation caused a cascade of errors among the alien officers. Calith guided him further, anticipating the fleet's next moves and suggesting maneuvers faster than Ryland could calculate alone. Together, they became a single unit, human intuition and AI calculation blending seamlessly. The fleet grew desperate. Varric ordered precision attacks, but Ryland had already set traps. Hidden energy pulses in the nebula caused feedback in their targeting systems, temporarily disabling weapons. The obsidian sparrow struck swiftly, launching small kinetic pulses to push enemy ships off course. It wasn't about brute force. It was about strategy, cunning, and adaptation. Hours passed in tense skirmishes. Ships were damaged, alarms blared, and the nebula itself seemed to fight alongside the human and the AI. Finally, the alien fleet began to retreat, unable to predict the chaos a single human mind could generate. Rylan exhaled, adrenaline still coursing through him. "We did it," he said, looking at Calith. "We're alive, and we're free. Human, remarkable, masterful." Kylith pulsed. Freedom, however, was just the beginning. Rylan knew the galaxy would hear of their success, and curiosity would lead other humans, aliens, and even entire factions toward them. But instead of fear, Rylan felt excitement. Humans thrived in adversity, and the universe was full of challenges waiting for ingenuity to overcome. In the following days, Rylan began exploring sectors long forgotten by galactic maps. Abandoned stations, derelict colonies, and hidden technology scattered across star systems were now within reach. With Calith's guidance, he scavenged and repaired old tech, creating upgrades for the Obsidian Sparrow. Each improvement made the ship stronger, faster, more versatile. It became more than a warship. It was a symbol of human adaptability and determination. During one expedition, they encountered a planet under the control of a tyrannical corporation. The inhabitants were oppressed, their technology stripped, their voices silenced. Most alien fleets would have passed them by as irrelevant, but humans saw opportunity and responsibility. Rylan devised a plan. Using the Obsidian Sparrow's upgraded systems, he and Calith created a diversion, drawing the corporation's patrols away. Then, employing small, precise strikes, they disabled key systems and released supplies to the oppressed population. It was risky, but humans excelled at risk, and innovation allowed them to succeed. The inhabitants watched in awe as the derelict warship, once abandoned and considered obsolete, saved them. The Obsidian Sparrow became a beacon of hope, a testament to the ingenuity, courage, and determination humans brought wherever they went. As Rylan stood on the bridge, looking at the stars streak past, he realized the full impact of what they had accomplished. Humans were underestimated, dismissed, and often considered weak. Yet here they were, changing the course of events across the galaxy, not through sheer power, but through creativity, courage, and adaptability. Calith pulsed beside him, lights flickering in rhythm with his heartbeat. The AI had become more than a system. It was a partner, a friend, and a testament to the human ability to inspire and teach even the most advanced technology. The galaxy would take notice. Word of the Obsidian Sparrow and its human mechanics spread quickly. Tales of ingenuity, courage, and improbable victories traveling faster than any fleet. Other humans, previously overlooked or underestimated, began to rise. Inspired by Rylan's success, they saw that even what was considered obsolete or weak could shape the galaxy in unexpected ways. Rylan piloted the ship toward the next uncharted system, determination hardening his gaze. The universe was vast, full of danger and opportunity. But humans had one advantage no other species possessed: creativity, courage, and the willingness to take risks where logic said none should be taken. "Ready for the next adventure?" he asked Calith. "Always, with human forever." The AI pulsed in response. The Obsidian Sparrow surged forward, engines glowing bright blue, cutting through the darkness of space. Rylan felt the thrill of exploration, the satisfaction of survival, and the pride of proving that humanity could thrive against all odds. They traveled to systems where no maps existed, discovered technology long abandoned, and helped civilizations long forgotten. Each mission reinforced one truth: humans were not to be underestimated. Their ingenuity, courage, and creativity were forces the galaxy could not ignore. Months passed, and the Obsidian Sparrow became legendary. Stories of the abandoned ship, revived by a human mechanic, spread across stars and planets. Humans were no longer just passengers in the galaxy. They were leaders, problem solvers, and innovators, capable of achieving what others deemed impossible. Rylan sat in the cockpit one evening, watching stars drift by. Calith pulsed gently beside him, lights flickering in silent communication. The AI had learned not only strategy and tactics, but also something deeper: the human spirit, the ability to persevere, to improvise, and to inspire. The journey was far from over. The galaxy was still vast, full of challenges and opportunities. But Rylan knew one thing with certainty: humans were capable of more than anyone had imagined. They could adapt, overcome, and thrive where others failed. And the obsidian sparrow, once abandoned and forgotten, was the perfect symbol of that truth. Rylan's hand rested on the console, feeling the hum of the ship beneath him. He smiled. Humanity had survived, and now it was thriving, shining as a light in the darkness of space. "Let's show the galaxy," he said quietly, "what humans can really do." The obsidian sparrow surged forward, leaving behind the shadows of its past, carrying with it the spirit of human ingenuity, courage, and determination. The galaxy had been warned. Humans were not to be underestimated. And for the first time in a long time, Rylan felt the full weight of possibility. The universe was wide, dangerous, and unpredictable. But humans were ready. Always ready. "Good," he whispered. "That's the kind of challenge I like." By evening, the scrapyard was quiet except for the distant clatter of other scavengers and the occasional hum of automated drones. Rylan climbed into the ship's cockpit, wiping layers of dust off the control panel. The screen flickered faintly, responding to his touch. A small spark ran through the circuits, and the hum grew stronger. The obsidian sparrow was acknowledging him. He had spent hours studying the old schematics, translating fragments of alien code. Slowly, he pieced together how the ship's AI, Calith, had been fragmented during the battle that led to the ship's decommissioning. Most people thought Calith was destroyed. Rylan knew better. Human minds had a knack for noticing patterns, for finding connections where others saw chaos. And Calith's core was giving off patterns, tiny, irregular pulses, almost like it was trying to speak. "Hello?" Rylan asked softly, tapping the console. "Can you hear me?" There was no immediate response, just the faint hum. But then, a single blue light blinked on the main panel, a sign that the AI recognized him. Rylan's grin widened. "Okay, you stubborn thing," he said. "Let's see what we can do together." He spent the next day scavenging parts from nearby wrecks, old power cells, energy conduits, and a stabilizer core that might just bring the ship back online. Every piece he added, every wire he reconnected, made the hum stronger, more alive. It was like coaxing a sleeping dragon to stir. By nightfall, he had managed a small but significant breakthrough. The main reactor coughed to life, and the hum in the ship's hull turned into a low, resonant vibration. Rylan's heart pounded. He had done what no alien engineer had tried in decades. He had touched the obsidian sparrow, and it had responded. But not everyone was pleased. From the shadows of the scrapyard, a small group of alien scavengers watched. They were sleek and cold, their limbs too precise to be fully biological. They whispered among themselves, noting the human meddling with what they considered worthless. "He thinks he can wake it?" one hissed. "Obsolete ships are dangerous for a reason," another replied. "If it awakens, it will be a problem." Rylan, unaware of the observers, worked late into the night, communicating with Calith in the simplest ways he could manage. He didn't speak the alien AI language, but he didn't need to. Humans had a way of reasoning beyond words. A tap here, a sequence there, a gentle adjustment of a worn-out conduit, and Calith began to respond. The ship's energy cores glowed faintly, lights flickering across the cockpit like a heartbeat. "You're learning," Rylan said quietly. "I know you've been alone too long, but I've got your back." He could feel the AI's presence growing stronger, more aware, as if it had been waiting all this time for someone patient enough to understand it. The ship began to power up small systems. The thrusters coughed, the sensors blinked, and the defense mechanisms clicked softly, dormant no more, but restrained. Days passed like this. Ryland slept aboard the ship, ate little, and spent every waking hour coaxing life back into the ancient starship. Every improvement, every spark of energy, brought a flicker of hope. And with each flicker, Ryland thought of the galaxy outside the scrapyard, the fleets that had abandoned the Obsidian Sparrow, the bureaucrats who had dismissed it, the aliens who had laughed at its obsolescence. Humans might have been underestimated, but Ryland knew that nothing in the galaxy worked the way humans did. Where others relied on rigid rules and statistics, humans relied on curiosity, courage, and creativity. And it was these qualities that were bringing the Obsidian Sparrow back to life. Late one night, a sudden jolt shook the cockpit. Sparks flew across the panels, and the hum grew into a low, powerful vibration. Ryland barely held onto the console. A panel flashed with unfamiliar symbols, the AI's way of communicating. Caleth was speaking, or at least trying. "Did you do that?" Ryland asked, his voice trembling with excitement. The lights flickered once more, pulsing in a rhythm that Ryland began to understand. Yes. Caleth was alive. Not fully, not yet, but enough to recognize its savior. From the shadows, the alien scavengers retreated, murmuring threats and warnings. Ryland didn't care. The ship wasn't theirs, and even if it were, no alien would understand it like a human could. He climbed into the pilot's seat and ran a hand along the console, feeling the energy thrumming beneath him. "This is just the beginning," he whispered. "Together, we'll show them what humans can do." And for the first time in decades, the Obsidian Sparrow hummed with purpose, ready to awaken fully. Not as a relic, not as a tool abandoned, but as a living testament to human ingenuity. The scrapyard lay silent under the twin moons, unaware that history was quietly being rewritten. One human mechanic, with nothing but patience and skill, was changing the fate of a ship, and perhaps the galaxy itself. Ryland leaned back in the chair, exhausted but exhilarated. The AI's lights pulsed gently, a sign of acknowledgement. He allowed himself a small smile. Humanity might be small, underestimated, and scattered across the stars, but moments like this proved that nothing, not even abandonment or obsolescence, could defeat them. And somewhere deep in the core of the Obsidian Sparrow, Caleth waited, learning from this strange, clever human who refused to give up, who saw potential in what everyone else had forgotten. For Ryland and for the ship, the adventure had only just begun. The scrapyard was quieter than usual, the twin suns glaring off rusted hulls and twisted metal. Ryland had spent the past few days coaxing the Obsidian Sparrow back to life, and the ship was responding. Its engines hummed, lights pulsed, and small systems blinked to life. But this was only the beginning. Awakening Caleth fully would not be easy, and there were others who had noticed the human meddling. Ryland worked tirelessly in the cockpit, wiping dust from the control panels, replacing worn conduits, and carefully recalibrating the energy systems. Caleth's AI flickered in response to his adjustments. The pulses of light on the main console felt almost like a heartbeat, each flicker stronger than the last. The AI was learning him, recognizing the logic behind human improvisation. "You're clever," Ryland said softly, smiling. "Not like the others who just saw you as scrap." For the first time since the ship's decommissioning, Caleth's systems fully acknowledged the presence of a conscious being. A faint, distorted voice echoed in the cockpit, fragmented words forming slowly, like a child learning to speak. Human, persistent, unexpected. Ryland's heart raced. The AI was trying to communicate. "I'm not leaving you behind," he promised. "We'll get you back online. Together." Outside the scrapyard, the alien scavengers had regrouped. They were sleek, cold, and calculating, a mix of organic and cybernetic parts. They whispered among themselves, their eyes fixed on the human who dared to touch the Obsidian Sparrow. That human has no respect for the warnings, hissed one. The ship is dangerous. It does not belong to him, another said. We will claim it before he fully revives it. Rylan, unaware of their plotting, continued working, carefully bypassing damaged circuits and rerouting power through the ship's secondary systems. He had learned that Khalith's core was highly sensitive, able to detect even the smallest mistake. Every adjustment had to be precise, but also flexible. Humans were unpredictable, but that unpredictability was what made them effective. Hours turned into days. The ship's thrusters began to respond to test commands, small pulses of energy running through the engines. The cockpit was filled with the soft hum of systems coming alive, and Rylan felt a growing bond with Kalith. The AI was cautious, but its fragmented intelligence seemed to trust him. Then came the first real test. A sudden alert flashed across the console. Foreign ships entering the scrapyard. Rylan's head snapped up. The scavengers had arrived early. The obsidian sparrow was vulnerable, and any mistake could mean destruction. Rylan moved quickly, his mind racing. He activated the ship's dormant defense systems. Energy shields flickered into place, metal plates shifted to cover weak points, and the cockpit lights dimmed to reduce visibility. The scavengers were cautious, approaching with sleek, agile ships designed to disable old vessels. Kalith, Rylan said, we need to be smart. Use what we have, not what they expect. The AI responded with a faint, distorted sequence of lights, a sign it understood. The ship's systems began to cooperate, following Rylan's improvisation. He activated a small energy pulse from the engines, sending a shock wave through the scrapyard. Scraps of metal flew into the path of the alien ships, forcing them to maneuver carefully. It was chaotic, dangerous, and very human. The aliens had superior firepower and technology, but Rylan's creativity gave him an edge. The obsidian sparrow dodged, shifted, and responded to his every command, its AI adapting in real time. One of the alien ships fired a precision beam, hitting the obsidian sparrow's hull. Sparks flew, and Rylan ducked narrowly, avoiding the blast. You're lucky I like challenges, he muttered, quickly rerouting power to reinforce the damaged section. Kalith responded with a low hum, the AI learning from the encounter. It began to anticipate attacks, guiding Rylan's hands to make adjustments faster than he could have done alone. For the first time, the ship felt alive, not just a machine, but a partner. The moment word spread that the obsidian sparrow was active, others would come. Pirates, authorities, corporations, and alien factions who saw opportunity in human innovation. He had to prepare the ship and himself for what was coming. Rylan spent a quiet evening in the cockpit, running simulations with Kalith. The ship responded smoothly, adapting to his commands. The systems were fully operational for short-range maneuvers, and the engines could hold minimal energy output for sustained flight. It was progress, but Rylan knew the real challenge was ahead, leaving the scrapyard intact. As night fell over the scrapyard, the twin moons casting pale light over the rusted hulls, Rylan sat back and looked at the obsidian sparrow. It was no longer a relic. It was alive, learning, and ready to respond. The AI and human together formed a bond that no one else could understand, a perfect blend of ingenuity and raw adaptability. A sudden alert interrupted the quiet. Sensors detected movement at the edge of the scrapyard. Another group of scavengers, larger and more heavily armed. They had come to claim the ship, unaware of the defenses Rylan had set and the intelligence growing within Kalith. Rylan's hands tightened on the console. We've come too far to back down now, he said. Time to show them what humans can do. He activated the shields, rerouted energy to the engines, and prepared to maneuver the obsidian sparrow through the scrapyard's maze of wrecks. Kalith's lights flickered rapidly, responding to his commands and anticipating the scavengers' moves. The first alien ship fired, and the obsidian sparrow dodged with a fluidity that surprised even Rylan. Improvised energy pulses from the engines disrupted their targeting systems, while debris from the scrapyard was sent flying in unpredictable patterns. The aliens had firepower, precision, and advanced sensors. But Rylan had unpredictability, courage, and a human mind that thrived on improvisation. The battle was chaotic, loud, and dangerous. Sparks flew across the cockpit, alarms blared, and the ship shuddered under the strain. But every move Rylan made, every decision he took, strengthened the bond with Caliph. The AI was learning, adapting, anticipating. Together they were no longer human versus machine. They were one force, blending intuition and raw power. Hours later, the alien scavengers withdrew, unwilling to risk further losses. Rylan slumped in his seat, exhausted, but victorious. The Obsidian Sparrow had survived its first real combat test, and Kaliph's AI was stronger and more coherent than ever. Rylan smiled, looking at the glowing core of the ship. "We're not done yet," he said. "This is just the start. The galaxy doesn't know it yet, but humans aren't so easy to forget." And somewhere deep in the systems of the Obsidian Sparrow, Caliph pulsed in agreement. The AI understood now. Humans were not predictable, not weak, and not to be dismissed. They were dangerous in the best way possible, clever, daring, and unstoppable when they refused to give up. The ship hummed softly, alive and waiting, ready for the next step in its revival. And Rylan knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, together, they would face them. The Obsidian Sparrow was no longer abandoned. Its fate, and the galaxy's, was about to be rewritten. Not just to them, but to ourselves. We're stronger than they think. "Human, exceptional, partner," the AI responded. Rylan smiled. He had awakened not just a ship, but a potential ally, a force that could challenge the galaxy's expectations. And yet, he knew the real challenge was ahead. The Obsidian Sparrow could defend itself now, but leaving the scrapyard safely and entering the galaxy would be another test. He spent the next day reinforcing the ship. Systems were checked, energy conduits stabilized, and shields optimized. Every adjustment brought Caliph closer to full coherence. The AI now displayed near-human thought patterns, anticipating Rylan's intentions and suggesting improvements. The bond between human and machine had become undeniable. Rylan also prepared for potential pursuit. He set up temporary traps in the scrapyard, rigged debris to create false escape routes, and programmed emergency pulses to disorient scanners. If anyone followed, they would find the path confusing, dangerous, and unpredictable. By the second night, the Obsidian Sparrow was ready. The engines could sustain long-range jumps, shields were strong enough for brief combat, and Caliph was coherent enough to operate autonomously if necessary. All that remained was for Rylan to decide: stay hidden and risk being discovered, or take the leap into the unknown galaxy. He stared out at the horizon, where the twin suns were setting, painting the scrapyard in gold and crimson. The decision was clear. Humans thrived in the unknown. Adaptation and courage had brought the ship this far. The galaxy awaited, full of threats, opportunities, and challenges that only humans could navigate. "Let's go," Rylan said, determination hardening his voice. "Time to see what humans can really do." The engines roared as the Obsidian Sparrow lifted from the scrapyard floor, dust and debris swirling around it. The alien ships hesitated. They had expected an easy target, an abandoned relic to salvage. Instead, they faced a coordinated, intelligent response. Rylan grinned. Humans had a way of thriving where others relied on rules and predictability. Creativity, courage, and quick thinking were weapons no one could program. After hours of maneuvering, the alien scavengers retreated, unwilling to risk further damage. Rylan exhaled, rubbing his eyes. The ship had survived its first real test. "You did well," he said to Caliph. "We're just getting started." With the immediate threat gone, Rylan focused on the AI again. Caliph's systems were stabilizing, and the core energy levels were rising. The ship could now move short distances under its own power, though full activation was still beyond reach. Rylan needed more resources, more parts, and time to fully restore the vessel. He spent the next few days scavenging nearby wrecks, carefully selecting parts that could integrate with the ship's alien technology. Every new addition brought a pulse of energy, a flicker of life. Kayla's AI grew more coherent, forming patterns of thought, recognizing Ryland's intentions and even beginning to anticipate his next move. "You're learning fast," Ryland said, testing the ship's navigation systems. The cockpit lights reflected off his determined face. "By the time we're done, no one will be able to underestimate us." Kaleth responded with a sequence of lights and a faint voice. "Human, unique, adapt, survive," Ryland smiled. Humans had always been underestimated, but that had never stopped them. Their strength lay in adaptability, ingenuity, and the willingness to take risks others would not. And in Kaleth, he had a partner who could appreciate that, even if the AI's understanding was still limited. But Ryland knew the galaxy would not leave them alone for long.